So here's a question. In the same amount of time it takes this metronome to beat 11 evenly spaced beats in time, how would I snap 7 evenly spaced beats? In other words, how would I play a 7/11 polyrhythm? Here we go. Okay, so how did I do that? And what does that say about our ability to feel rhythm?
7/11s are like the greatest thing.
The greatest thing.
7/11s, 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 7/11s
are like the greatest thing.
7/11s, 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 7/11s
are like the greatest thing. Are like the
greatest thing.
are like the greatest thing.
Okay, so the first step in thinking about this problem is to not think about it as a polyrhythm. Rather, you should think about it kind of like as a poly unit of time. Let's think in terms of seconds. So say you had one sound occurring once every 3 seconds and another sound occurring once every 4 seconds. You would say that they are in a polyrhythmic relationship of 3 to 4. Right now the sounds are kind of out of sync. That's what gives polyrhythms their characteristic feeling. But because you know the ratio between the two of them, you can accurately predict when they'll fall back in sync. Around the 12-second mark, as it so happens, the least common multiple of those two numbers. Now, thinking in terms of seconds is useful for conceptualizing polyrhythms, but cycles of 7 and 11 seconds would take 1 minute and 17 seconds to fully resolve, which is not super useful for musicians. Musicians instead are thinking in terms of beats and subdivisions of those beats. That's a lot more musical. Now, unfortunately, 7 and 11 are rather strange subdivisions, so to figure some of this stuff out,
I'm afraid we need to use math.
but don't worry, musicians math, so it's not really all that hard. A 2-variable polyrhythm can be defined as the relationship between x evenly spaced events in time and y evenly spaced events in time. For musicians, x represents the pulse, the thing that we move our bodies to. Y, on the other hand, represents the counterpulse, something that we calculate but we don't necessarily feel. What do I mean by that? In music, we might split pulses into finer subdivisions of time. A counterpulse is an alternative grouping of those subdivisions. So in this example, the pulse was grouped in 4. However, the counterpulse is grouped in 3. Both are regular and both repeat. With this information, you can figure out any polyrhythm, including 7 against 11. All you need is just a pen and paper. So we're going to draw x rows of y numbers. In this case, we'll use 3 for x and 4 for y. The rows represent the pulses, the things that we're feeling, and the numbers represent the subdivisions of those pulses. Next, we're going to draw a circle around every xth number, every third number in this case, going from left to right. This represents the counterpulse. Next, we'll have one hand snap the pulses where we drew the number 1, and one hand snap the counterpulses when we drew the circles. And it's just a matter of counting to 4.
1, 2, 3, 4.
And it's just a matter of counting to 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. A little faster. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. If you had to write this out in musical notation, it would look like this. A measure of 3/4 where every third 16th note is accented. Now, musical notation can be useful in understanding polyrhythms, but for the more complicated ones, like 7 against 11, it can be a little tricky. So for right now, we're just going to focus on the fundamentals behind musical notation, pulses and subdivisions. You could also switch the numbers that you plug in for x and y, so now you're feeling groupings of 3 instead of groupings of 4. The process of writing it out remains the same, but now the pulses and counterpulses are inverted. Let's try it. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1. A little faster. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, sum of both the pulse and the counterpulse occurring at the same time is called the composite rhythm. Every polyrhythm has a unique composite that has a specific sort of sound and feeling to it. Getting to that composite rhythm is the ultimate goal of practicing polyrhythms. It's the post-intellectual stage when we stop counting and start feeling the music. Now, that phenomenological shift between counting and feeling can sometimes be rather hard to get to, so there's some tricks that we can use. You can use metric patterns in language to help remember the composite rhythm if you want. 3 against 2 is nice cup of tea, nice cup of tea. 3 against 4 is pass the goddamn butter. 5 against 4 is I'm looking for a home to buy. This method is kind of fun for getting into the feeling of composite rhythms, but unfortunately, it's of limited use with the more complicated ones like 7 against 11.
1, 2, 3, 4.
All this time of the year.
Composite rhythms are what I would call pulse agnostic. They remain the same in a given polyrhythm even if you flip the pulse and the counterpulse. For example, are you hearing this as the pulse of 3 groupings of 4? Or are you hearing this as the pulse of 4 groupings of 3? There is no right answer here. It all comes down to your own personal interpretation of the sound that you are hearing. It comes down to your own personal understanding of music and the world, and this actually might be culturally informed, as I talked about a little bit in my last video on Balkan understanding of non-isochronal pulses. When you are interpreting the sound, your brain is taking 2 streams of information and reconciling them by way of the subdivision. There's tension there that's only resolved when the 2 streams come together. This is why we talk about polyrhythms so much, why I talk about polyrhythms so much. They're such a great engine to the vehicle of musical expression that is tension and release. Anyway, on to the main event, the 7/11 polyrhythm. Now we could feel it as 7 groupings of 11, but that means that we would have to feel 11 subdivisions per pulse. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. That's not super practical at speed. So instead, we're going to try and feel it as 11 groupings of 7. This means that we will draw 11 rows of 7 numbers per row, and then circle every 11th number. Now we'll practice it just like we did with the simpler polyrhythms. It's going to take a while, but here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1. That's really all there is to it. On an intellectual level, it's actually not that tricky. But that was super slow, way too slow to be able to feel the composite. For simpler polyrhythms, you don't need to count that quickly, but the more complicated the polyrhythm is, the faster you need to count to be able to feel it. So a trick that I personally use for very fast counting of odd subdivisions is to think of those odd subdivisions in groupings of 2 and 1. So for 7, it would be 3 groupings of 2 and 1 grouping of 1, which then you can kind of interpret in your mind's ear as kind of like counting to 4, except the 4th beat is a lot shorter than all the others. It's gonna sound like 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1.
1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4.
So if you do it with the 7 against 11 polyrhythm, it'll sound like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1.
1, 2, 3, 4.
To put this into musical notation, this would be like having a measure of 11/4, where every beat is subdivided into septuplets, and then every 11th septuplet is accented. This is the musical context for the track that you've been listening to over the course of this video, septupleted 11/4, which is why it fits with the snapping example that I gave at the beginning of this video.
Bring the state.
Bring the state.
Bring the state.
Bring the state.
Bring the state. Bring the state.
Okay, so how did I do that? And what does that say about our ability to feel rhythm?
1, 2, 3, 4.
7-Eleven.
And so today I am issuing the 7-11 challenge. Yes, that's right, where you play a 7 against 11 polyrhythm in or around a 7-Eleven convenience store. Why am I doing this? Well, 1, I think it's kind of funny, but 2, I think that shitposting can actually lead to better musical aptitude. Because unlike spamming the lick everywhere, which let's be honest is a rather low effort meme, you have to, practice if you want to play 7-11 polyrhythms. You can't just play every 11th septuplet without spending some time in the shed. 7-11 polyrhythms are high effort memes. They are premium memes, available to only those who put in the work. So if you want to take part in this 7-11 challenge, be sure to tag me at its_Neely over at Instagram. I look forward to reviewing your submissions and hearing your lovely, lovely 7-11 polyrhythms.
Bring the state.